Okay.
Ben, would you start beautifully launch and start our program today?
I would be so honored to, Kathleen. So with that honor comes the great pleasure of introducing our chair of our Women's Coaching and Consulting Council, Kathleen Caldwell. She is the CEO of Caldwell Consulting Group and founder of the C-Suite Network Women's Coaching and Consulting Council, and also the originator, the builder of the Women's Success Thought Leadership Accelerator. She helps guide and mentor successful women in business to achieve greater impact, income, and thought leadership, and the heart and soul of how we do that together in community and really uplift, elevate, accelerate. And so the work that Kathleen does here in the C-Suite Network with this council is tremendous. And today is certainly no exception with this incredible speaker that we have today, Sherry James, and our topic about becoming independently mentally wealthy. So Kathleen, I'm going to hand things over to you, and I want to share with everyone the power, the beauty, the love, the integrity and strength and success that you emanate and give to all of us as my give and handover to you. You do that for us all every day.
Trisha Ben, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give a round of applause for Trisha Ben. Wonderful CEO, C-Suite Network, community leader. My gosh, extraordinary woman. Yes, longtime friend. I think we're going on 7 years now, and in that's real human, not dog years. That's the real thing. So there we go. Yeah, such a joy. Thank you. So today's program is extraordinary, and I'm going to pop over, and we're welcoming each of you here, whether you're here in person, because over Zoom we're in person, right? Or you're watching the replay. We're so glad that each of you are here. And we get this great privilege to share this beautiful wisdom from our speaker today, Sherry James, and at the same time, incorporate all of you into the conversation. So we're so grateful that you're here. Carol, thanks for taking the time to be here. Margaret, thank you for being here. Susan K. Younger, we're so glad you're here. Thank you. And of course, Trisha Ben. So let me share a couple slides to set the stage. And we've got a lot going on in the Women's Coaching and Consulting Council, ladies. We've got it. If you can see my slides, give me a little thumbs up. Yeah. And by the way, put in the chat your contact information, put your LinkedIn into the chat. We want to make sure that everybody can connect with each of you, and we're going to make sure that you can connect with our speaker, Sherry James. Sherry and I started talking about this topic, I think it was September of last year. That's how long we've been planning this and thinking about this and creating a beautiful environment to bring Sherry on stage. And her topic is so necessary and needed now more than ever, becoming independently mentally wealthy. Really a perfect topic. And so thank you, Trisha. I'm Kathleen Caldwell, founder of C-Suite Network's Women's Coaching and Consulting Council. And I'm so delighted to help women start, grow, and scale their thought leader businesses, their businesses as coaches, consultants, trusted advisors, and people who we're helpers, ladies. We're such helpers. And today's topic, we get to help ourselves. Isn't this great? We get to re-nourish, recalibrate, revitalize ourselves today. So thank you in advance to Sherry James for helping us do that. So with this, we love to promote you as a council member and as an esteemed faculty member. We'd love to promote you from the council. We want to give you, and we do give you, a platform in which to share big ideas, come up with new curriculum, new presentations, and share your ideas, and also share in our sisterhood. So big shout out to last month's speaker, Kathy Dirksen. Oh, it was a powerful program. Oh my goodness. We learned about the analogy snap, which was really fantastic. You have to watch the replay to find out more about that. We also had the marvelous Nancy Geary talking about bundling your brilliance and how to turn your intellectual property, your expertise into online programs. It was marvelous. And of course, the wonderful Linda Conyard from Brisbane, Australia. We are an international council, ladies. You know this. And so Linda Conyard, oh my goodness, what a delicious program she led on how to connect to your power. We had a great experiential program with Linda. It was so great, very energizing and very lovely. So with that, we've got powerhouse women in our council, but guess what? As you all know, the world is topsy-turvy out there. Things are kind of crazy. I think even more than ever before, there's an unsettling that's happening. And I'm not telling you all smart women anything new, but the headlines, the BBC has a headline about why women are more burned out than men. Okay, especially during COVID. And the World Health Organization is saying that COVID has triggered a 25% increase in anxiety and depression worldwide. I can't even say it. It's so heart touching. And today's topic is so timely. So we're so really thrilled to have Sherry James speaking about this because, we can't put our head in the sand. We may want to at times, but we in the Women's Coaching and Consulting Council, we are the lighthouse sisters. We're the lighthouse ladies. We're the people that people go to when they need strength, when they need confidence, when they want to show their best out to the world, when they need a friend, when they need a colleague, when they need a strategist, when they need someone they can count on. But today's program is all about how we can strengthen ourselves so we can be more strong for others in the world. Take care of thyself. The first rule that the flight attendants, those marvelous flight attendants, tell us is put the mask on yourself. It's an important analogy because when the storms, the waters are crazy, the storms are out there, we want to be the lighthouse for people in the world. So with that, I'd love to introduce the marvelous Sherry James, project management professional. I say she's a perfectly marvelous person, whatever that PMP stands for in your world, but she certainly is. Sherry James is a global thought leader. She is an integral part of C-Suite Network, the Thought Leadership Council. She's a leader in the world of mentally independent, mentally wellness, being well. She's the founder of the Creating Mental Wealth podcast and show with Sherry James. And she's a servant leader and a survivor. This is a unique woman who has a voice and she is using it, ladies. So you can get your inspiration. Sherry was recently in Washington, D.C., spreading the word about how important it is to be independently, mentally healthy. Sherry's mission is to increase our mental wealth and help others to heal out loud. Her vision is to save lives one heart at a time. She's the founder of 2020 Lives Changed, a 501c3 that's powered by her company. And in her spare time, where does she get all this time, Sherry? By Phoenix Speaks Inc. So with that, take yourself off mute. Let's give a resounding round of applause to our speaker, Sherry James.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Tricia, and thank you, Kathleen. I am so grateful for your time. I'm excited that we get to spend some time together talking about becoming mentally wealthy. And so before we get started, maybe it's just me. Does anyone have the desire to be wealthy? Like, show of hands. Anybody have this desire, right? I think that the work that I do ultimately is based in suicide prevention. So you're like, well, how do those two things work together? I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Most of the ladies that are on the call today kind of know the story, but for those that will catch us via replay, my name is Sherry James, and I spent 30 years of my life in corporate America in different leadership roles and positions, working for some of the planet's largest companies. I had the opportunity to hone my speaking skills. I was sent all around the world to speak on topics from leadership, servant leadership in the workplace, obviously managing multi-million-dollar projects, and that is what my profession is. But one of the things that I noticed over time is that the higher up we went in the corporate ladder, the less mentally well we were, right? The fewer number of people we had an opportunity to speak to honestly and transparently about our true mental state, right? So the better we did in the corporate environment, the less options we had and the less resources. And so I decided several years ago to start to slowly changing my topic from just leadership to how to lead a mentally wealthy team, because it's a paradigm shift. People are like, yeah, mental health and mental illness. And I know I hear about that, but it's typically talked about when it's in that crisis mode, when you are at the point where you can't handle anything else. And I figured that I could create a curriculum for people as young as kindergartners. So what if we could learn how to manage our mental wealth as early as kindergarten? Kindergartners have the understanding of the concept of, if you take something from me, I don't have it. And typically I cry. But if you give me something that I want, I'm excited about it. And so these children are young enough to be able to understand something that just happened either was a mental wealth deposit for me. So this meeting today is a mentally wealthy deposit in my mental wealth bank. I'm excited to get to spend time with amazing, beautiful, smart women. And so this I will document as this is a deposit for me. At some point today, something out of my control likely will be a withdrawal. Maybe someone will cut me off in traffic. I'll get a nasty comment about something that happened on, some social media. But if I'm keeping a balance, and if I don't know how many of you guys remember us having checkbooks. Was it just me? Anybody remember having like a checkbook?
Oh, of course.
But what was so important about that, and why did that keep us kind of in mind, is because we would write down when we had a deposit, right? Like, okay, I got paid today, add $5 to my checking account. And then you knew how to balance what you had. And then you knew if you had to make a transfer. If something happens like, hey, I only got a $5 deposit, but I got a $17 withdrawal, we would have to make choices. And so that's what the concept, Kathleen, of mental wealth is. It's kind of teaching two things at the same time. So at the K through 12 level, we talk about mental wealth in deposits and withdrawals and interest-bearing activities. But what this also does for our younger audience is it teaches them the basics of also managing their money, because they're not really learning that, right? They're used to just swiping a card and money just appearing there. So this gives us an opportunity to teach not just the importance of mental health and mental wellness in a proactive manner, but for our K through 12 clients, as well as our university clients, because a lot of our college students have no concept of that basic balancing of a checkbook. And so the program is kind of there's a duality in it. So we can teach the importance of both financial management as well as mental wealth management. So that's what we do. That is the core of the work that I do when I am on Keynotes. I talk about becoming mentally wealthy, which means that's something we can control. And a lot of times, especially as women, we will give and give and give and do and do and do for everyone except for ourselves. So we're typically pouring from an empty cup. And what I found in the last 3 years of research is if we decide to document our deposits, just like we used to back in the day when we had to, we can refer back to those when it's necessary. And so that's kind of the large scope of what we do. Obviously, I have a TV show that we just wrapped season 1, and that show is called Creating Mental Wealth with Sherry James. And my goal is to show people that it's not just therapy, right? It's not always just medication. A lot of the things that scare people away from mental health and mental health management is they have this idea of what that looks like. And the Creating Mental Wealth show gives you a myriad of options. I mean, we have a person that's a sleep hygienist that will come and talk about the importance of sleep when it comes to mental wealth. My first guest was John Sally. He is a stout vegan, and he talks a lot about the importance of what we eat and how what we eat makes us mentally wealthy or not. And so my goal is to have people on the show from various walks of life to talk about different tools that we can use to manage our own mental wealth. So what questions do you have for me in that regard?
Yeah, thank you, Sherry James, and hello everyone, to be thinking about your own questions for Sherry, because we have this great privilege to have you on our broadcast today, Sherry. What I'm wondering is, what are you seeing, Sherry, in regard to what's happening globally? What, when it comes to, just the whole concept of becoming independently mentally wealthy? I mean, even those four words, become, independently or independent, mentally wealthy, each of those are just so profound in just their standalone power. What are you seeing globally with this movement you're creating?
So, it's interesting that you mentioned globally, because I think I assumed initially when I started this project that it would be a very kind of small niche group of people who would, like the idea of this mental wealth. And the complete opposite has happened. I will tell you that especially internationally, I have some clients, for example, in India. And I've learned so much about how that culture, or that particular section of our culture, deals with depression and anxiety and any of that. Like, it is so much more stigmatized there. In that she was explaining to me that if she was ever to tell someone that she was depressed or anxious or had any of these kind of emotions, she would be denied entry to university, right? Her family, which, in some places, they were still doing arranged marriages. That's just a part of the culture. But if a person was to identify themselves with having some kind of mental challenges, then they would not then be eligible to have a marriage arranged for them, right? And so what I'm finding globally is that there are more people willing to have this conversation, especially when we're giving them tools that they could do with by themselves, right? Without necessarily someone outside of the home being engaged, if that's not an option. And so that's one of the kind of the global trends, where people are like, oh, I can do this myself, which is why we talk about independently. I can do this. If I have the tools, after I've gone through the course, I understand what needs to happen, I can choose how to manage, how I deal with the things that happen in my life.
Very powerful. And we can really see that this is so important for us individually, Sherry, and also, culturally, big picture, globally, and the opportunity for organizations to support their employees with becoming independently mentally wealthy, because a well workforce everywhere around is going to be a more productive and a happier and more prosperous workforce as well. What are you seeing in regard to organizations and companies? How are they becoming more aware of this, and what are they doing in your experience?
So it's interesting that you ask. So we typically start off with a discovery session when I'm working with my corporate clients, and I do a survey, right? So we survey the attendees, and then we survey the leadership. They get a different a survey. And so it's always interesting to see that, and that the responses are anonymous, so we don't know who said what. But there's usually the cumulative group's mental wealth balance sheet. And then there is the perception that leadership has, like leadership is like, my team they're all mental millionaires. We do everything that we can. They're great. They're wonderful. And then you look at the results from the team, and the team is like, we're actually mentally bankrupt. And it's typically because of the way the leadership is handling this kind of post-pandemic situation. And so it's very interesting. Organizations are asking, like, how can I find out the mental wealth of my team, and how can I figure out if I am a withdrawal or a deposit into that. So it's always interesting. That first day, there's that aha moment of, you mean all of my my team is not like just super happy? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, they're not. But the good thing is that they're listening. So organizations now are willing to step outside of the box of the normal things that they had to do. They're looking for this kind of customized approach to say, how do you handle our particular organization's withdrawals, not just globally. But this program is so powerful because it takes accountability for both leadership and the individuals to keep a kind of a running spreadsheet of, hey, how was your day today? Like, One of my clients here in Dallas, I encourage them to write a number on the board, a number. Like this morning I woke up, we ever say that? I woke up feeling like $1 million. So write $1 million on your dry erase board. That's how much money, how much mental wealth you got to play with today. So now when that irritating coworker comes in and knocks on your door, that might be a withdrawal, but you started off with $1 million. So maybe her withdrawal was $500. It's fine. You still have enough to continue to give and learn throughout the day, right? So companies are really finding it interesting to do that initial discovery. There's a moment of shock of like, I didn't think that was the case, but then they ask the next question, how do we change this? What tools do we give to our team so that they can feel that coming to work is a mental wealth deposit? Or if I, as a leader, am the reason that people feel withdrawn from, how can you coach me to be more of a giver, a giver of deposits than a person that takes withdrawals? So it's a lot of fun. It's interesting after that first day when we have to kind of right size expectations. But clients, organizations are finding that it's easy to do because you have to walk the walk.
Yes, yes. And so, opening up our program for your questions as well. And Sherry, I'm gonna go to a more personal question for all of us is, how, we understand that you're a thought leader in this area. And again, we're not giving medical advice. So per se, we're not licensed professional medical, we're not psychiatrists and psychologists here. We're giving, counsel and advice, right? So that's our little disclaimer there, the footnote in our program. But what would you say, Sherry? What should we be looking out for, for ourselves personally? When you counsel people in organizations and personally, and people that you meet, how do you counsel us? How do we understand the difference between like, hey, we're not having a great day, and there's something more serious we should be speaking to a medical professional about? How does it all, what's the continuum, friend?
That's a great question. And I would say, I don't believe that, this is my opinion, and thank you for the disclaimer. So as a human helping humans, I don't think that we should wait to have a conversation with a therapist until times are tough. And again, this is just my opinion. Just like you have a primary care physician that you just see regularly, just, to make sure that there is kind of this homeostasis. I encourage everyone to have a professional that they can talk to and to do it proactively. So I think that is the one word that I want to stress is, in order to become and remain mentally wealthy, you have to have a team of people surrounding you to keep you that way. And so having a therapist is something that I think you should have beforehand, so that when those moments of stress and crisis come up, which they will, and we know that they do, you already have that relationship, you already have a place to go. So I'm going to always be an advocate for that. But I think that this mindset, it's a mindset shift, right? And so individually, we have to be able to take a moment, and nobody likes writing things down anymore. Like, we are all used to using our smartphones and tablets, but there's something, and I know, Susan, you probably could expound on this, but when we write down things that happen daily, like, hey, I had this thing is happening to me every day. So for example, when I watch the news, I don't feel better after I watch the news than I did before, right? So for me, I have to be cognizant of how often am I going to do that. I know it's a withdrawal. I know I also need to know what's happening from a current events perspective. So individually, I think that we've got to just be able to figure out where we're writing our notes to ourselves, having Post-it notes, one on the refrigerator that says, today you felt like $1 million. Remember, that's your that's kind of your number for today. So manage that. So I think having the individual responsibility for documenting not just what's good, but also what's not good, and make sure that we're limiting that. And so sometimes we get caught up in social media, and we think that that's a credit. We think that's a deposit into our mental wealth bank, when in a lot of cases that's not true, right? And so you've got to go back and say, how do you feel after you spent 2 hours scrolling through whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram. So understanding what those look like for yourself. And then people around you will start asking questions like, you seem to be a bit more positive lately. It's like, well, because I woke up feeling like $1 million. And so I operated as if I had $1 million. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. And Sherry, I'm wondering, could you lead us through just a few minutes of an experiential part of this so we can leave actually practicing some of the things that you teach? This whole idea of a ledger, it never occurred to me to really document what zaps my energy, what pulls away my positivity, what is a withdrawal, and then what's what is a deposit. Never thought about this.
I love that you asked that. And so will you be my guinea pig? Will you be my guinea pig for today?
And would love to. And could we all maybe interactively write our lists at the same time? And then we could open up the microphone, open up the sharing too, so we get everyone involved.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're going to go through a really quick exercise, ladies. So please have a pen and something to write on. And again, please write, don't type it. All right, so we are going to start. Kathleen, I'm going to put you through an exercise that I put my clients through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to give me 5 words. And those 5 words are just, and not some, they've got to be just single words that summarize an activity that brings you a deposit, a mental wealth deposit. So give me 5 of those really quickly off the top of your head. What 5 things bring you joy?
Great. And we're asking everyone to do the same at the same time, right? So we get everybody about. Okay. 5 words: Zumba, music, nature, teaching, sisterhood.
I like it. All right. So now what we're going to do is, if you had to put a monetary amount, just grab any number, a monetary amount to each of these. Tell me what that would be. So Zumba, how much of a deposit does that make into your mental wealth bank?
It makes, let's see. So is there, now isn't it interesting? My mind goes to, there's only a certain amount, and how do I portion out? This is so good. How do I have to portion out of 100%. I have to get this portion. So that's.
But I haven't given you a budget yet. I haven't told you what your deposit is. So I just want to know what the deposits are before we give you a budget. So
scarcity thinking here. Good. Yeah. Okay, good. Zumba, I would say is probably I would say a 10.
$10. We're thinking $10
Okay.
or 10,000.
Well, tell me. I don't know my budget. I'm thinking all right. Let's see. Let's say 20%. Is that what you're looking for?
A dollar amount. Give me a dollar amount.
Ladies, this is not rehearsed. This is real. This is real life.
Yeah, okay. That's it. But this is what happens, right? We are challenged with how to assess value to the things that we love. Like, this is exactly why we go through this. Because we're like, I can't tell you how much joy Zumba brings me because I don't know how much. That's the paradigm shift. We are not going to work with, I only have this, so this, we're not doing that. Just tell me, let's put a number to it. And it is hard. That's why we're doing this work. It's very difficult to assess a financial dollar amount to something that brings us joy.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, all right. So I would say $20,000.
20,000. I love it. What about music?
Music brings me $30,000.
Okay. What about nature?
Nature brings me $25,000.
Okay. And then what about teaching?
Teaching brings me $100,000.
Love it. All right. And then sisterhood.
Sisterhood brings me $500,000.
500,000. I love it. All right.
I got to ratchet up my other ones.
Huh?
I feel like now I need to ratchet up my other numbers, but that's okay. It's good for now. This is,
Thing,
ladies, this is a great exercise.
if you want to increase the value, you absolutely can do that.
Okay.
But before we do that, let's go
Yes.
to withdrawals. So we're going to
Yes.
do the same thing. Give me 5 words that are mental wealth withdrawals from your mental wealth bank account every day.
Yes. TV news,
I got it.
print news.
Well, that's all news, so that's the same.
You know what? But I would, yeah, but for me, it's different because we get 3 newspapers a day,
Got it.
but it
Okay,
zaps my energy, all of them.
I got
you
it.
know,
Okay, so I'll
Yeah,
separate
even
them.
I love the Wall Street Journal, but still, yeah. So to me, it's like 2 different activities, and the sensory experience is a lot different. But anyway, and
I got it.
yeah, it's my experience of it. Okay, so TV news, print news, 3. The social media feed on my phone,
Got it. Okay, what's number
and
4?
and often Facebook.
I got it. I love that you whispered that. Okay, got it. All right, so TV news, print news, social media, 2 more.
Okay, Facebook specifically,
Okay, got it.
and being around negative people.
Got it. All right, so
Negative
let's
people.
discuss some numbers to these as well. TV news, how much of a withdrawal would you say that is from your mental wealth?
$50,000.
50,000. Okay, print news.
50,000.
Got it. Social media.
$75,000.
Okay, Facebook specifically.
50,000.
Okay. And then negative people.
100,000.
Got it. All right, so I will tell you that your numbers, let's see, we do 600. So your mental wealth deposits that you've documented, and I know there are some that I limited you to only 5. What do you think that number came up to? If you had to just, I'll do the math.
Yeah, I'm just
I'll
looking at 600, like over $700,000, almost 700,000.
Yep, 675,000.
Okay,
So
675.
that is your potential earning in mental. This is, and again, we know this isn't everything, right?
Right.
But you have the potential to have $675,000 of things that you do when you wake up in the morning. Now,
I feel so wealthy, Sherry James.
Yeah, that is pretty nice, right? It's a bigger amount than we thought. Now let's assume that when you woke up this morning, you did say, I feel like $1 million, right? So now you have your starting balance, right? So I know that today I woke up feeling like $1 million. So you add $1 million to these activities that you know that you can engage in. So now in your day, even if someone sends you a link and it's the news and you're like, oh, I didn't really want to hear about that. That was a $50,000 withdrawal. You are now pulling from 1,675,000, right? So what's happening is that I'm finding that my clients are finding there's more balance than they assumed, because I'm not allowing them to set a budget. You don't get to do that first, because it's so interesting the way the brain works. If I had told you you only had 50,000, you would never have exceeded 50,000, right? Even in calculate, not math, no mathing, not having to do any math out loud. Subliminally, subconsciously, your brain would never have exceeded that budget. And what you did is the perfect example. People are like, I don't know how much joy that brings me because I don't know what my budget is. There is no budget maximum on your happiness.
You can only have a certain amount because I have a budget.
You can have as much as you want.
Oh,
right?
Sherry James,
So
awesome.
It's such a paradigm shift, but I would love to hear what some of the other ladies wrote down. So Carol, are you interested in sharing? Like what were your 5 words that were mental wealth deposits?
Writing, face-to-face conversations, going to restaurants with my husband, Bill, reading for pleasure, and concerts.
I love it. Okay, so this one's gonna be fun. Okay, so give me a dollar amount for writing. How much does that add to your mental wealth bank account every day?
You know, I did it kind of differently. I based it on 100. So writing was 100. Face-to-face conversations was 100. Restaurants was 100. Reading for pleasure was 50.
Okay,
And entertainment was 100.
got it. When you go to concerts, you said going to restaurants with your husband, do you typically go to concerts with your husband as well?
Yes, yes.
Did you say his name was Richard?
Bill.
Bill, sorry. I don't know where I got that from. Sorry, Bill. Sorry. All right. So here's what I'm finding. So here, your numbers were 100, $450. But here's a finding. Going to restaurants with Bill and concerts with Bill, if you were able to do both of those in one day, that adds $200 to your mental wealth account. Let me tell you how that becomes an interest-bearing activity. Because I will bet that Bill also appreciates the time that you spend at concerts and also the time that you spend at restaurants. So now it was not just a deposit in just your mental wealth bank, but also into his. So now we've exponentially increased the amount of joy. And I would be willing to bet you that if you were to have that conversation with him to say, you know what, Bill, I went and did a little listing of the things that brought me joy and you showed up there twice. Now that puts so much more into his mental wealth bank because he needs to understand the importance of spending time with him in your overall managing of your mental health.
Very cool.
Right. So that's one of the sections where we move on and we talk about interest-bearing activities. How is something that's good for
very fun.
Also good for others in my family, and then subsequently your circles expand and your deposits can become others, right? Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you for sharing. Susan, you ready? I want to know about your mental wealth withdrawals. What were those looking like?
My withdrawals are few because I avoid them.
I love it.
I love it.
Negative people was definitely one for me. And if I overbook my day, if I overcommit, that's when I notice I create stress for myself. So those were the two that I wrote down as negative. I have really made it a point to where Kathleen's talking about all the news she takes in, I take in less and less of it all the time because it was driving me nuts. It didn't matter which side you were hearing from, they were all making everybody else wrong. And so I have diminished where I'm listening to what, to get what I absolutely have to have and no more than that. Exercise I have done for years is a gratitude journal. And one of the exercises that I was taught from Matthew Ferry, probably 15 or more years ago, was what he called a 10-10, where you wrote down 10 things you were grateful for and lined them up with 10 things you wanted to improve in your life. By making the improvements attached to something you were grateful for, you started to look at those things you were reaching for as more possible.
Absolutely.
And I love that kind of tying things together.
I love it.
That has been something that helped me to not get in the weeds about the little things that start pulling at you at times.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love that you kind of started out with like, I try to minimize the amount of withdrawals, right? And so it's definitely something that we teach our clients as well. For now, if you think about it, think about the power of giving that opportunity to young people and teaching this as a practice. We get it because we've been through a couple of things, right? At our age, we've seen some things, we've done some things, we've heard some things. But if we can give children as early as kindergarten the opportunity to see things like, what do you do today to minimize your withdrawals, right? What do you do to protect yourself from somebody who might, the kid on the playground? We've got some really, really big news that I want to announce probably in about a month. And so Kathleen, I'll give you like the heads up so you can get the exclusive on it. But we are finding ways to be able to reach millions of children at the same time so that we can start finding out beforehand and giving them the tools. Like Susan said, I already know that I want to limit my withdrawals. So I'm going to start off with just 2, not 5. That's where that independently mentally wealthy concept comes from, because Susan has been through a couple of these classes and she's heard it. But as a result, she knows what she needs to do and how what she does is very different than what Kathleen does. And what Kathleen does is different than Carol and I, right? And so the concept of being able to be wealthy, just saying that feels good. I can be wealthy. I can be mentally wealthy. Are there things that are going to interrupt with that? Absolutely. Our physical health. I've struggled with some some physical health issues that directly impacted my mental wealth. And so, but if I'm writing that down, kind of to your point, Susan, comparing it, like, here are all the things that were withdrawals for me today, but how many of those were outside of my control, right? Was it something that just happened? We watch the news and see that someone else has had some situation. We can choose to limit how often or how frequently, even though there's still a withdrawal, we'll find out about it eventually. But what if we could decide to sandwich the withdrawals, right? Like, I know that if I'm going to have a meeting, for example, at my son's school, if they call me and say, hey, we need to talk right now because you're a teenage son, I can say, okay, here's what I'm going to do on my drive over there. I am going to listen to some calming Deepak Chopra, so put me in a good mind state. And then afterwards, we'll go have ice cream before we have the conversation. So again, the ability to create your own mental wealth is not difficult, right? It's a concept that we're used to doing. Like, you know what, that was great. I want to do it again. I am very old school in that I still use Post-it notes. And so whenever something pops up on my mind that I'm like, that was really good, I really feel better as a result of that, I write it down and I stick it on, I have a little Post-it board, right? So when my days are physically, I'm not feeling well, if emotionally I'm not feeling well, I still have this wall of Post-it notes that I can go and like, oh man, that's right. This was good. This was a deposit. I'm actually not as off balance as I thought. I have a lot more to give, right? And in some days, and this is I'll kind of wrap with this. What we need to do is find the things that are those withdrawals and put and hold our boundaries, right? Sometimes our withdrawals are people. And maybe it's just me, but I know that there are certain people that when I see their name on my phone, it is an instant, there's like a little coin, ding, 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 ding. It just takes all those coins out of my mental wealth bank, right? And so we have to be able to make a decision, right? Is it worth today's mental wealth to take this call, knowing that this person will just take and take and take? Or can I respond with a very simple response of like, I'm at capacity right now, right? I'm at capacity. I can't give anything else right now. And I'm not sure that you're going to make a deposit. So I'm at capacity. So being able to build that border and that boundary to say, okay, I'm protecting my mental wealth at all times, which means some people, situations, some foods may have to be eliminated in order for us to keep this balance. So thank you guys for.
Okay, round of applause for Sherry James.
Thank you.
Wow, that was so fabulous, Sherry. Good.
You.
So before we wrap up here, I'd love for each of us to be thinking about a takeaway that we've had from today, an aha, an insight, and also a gratitude for Sherry James. Maybe a word or phrase, something that you see, the beautiful leader that you see in Sherry James. If you'd like to play, we're going to just wrap up with a couple slides and really great and tell you more about what we've got going on in our council. So, wow, very, very powerful program, Sherry. And I'm clear that we could keep going. So this was just a little teaser for today. So be thinking about, we're going to wrap up here in a moment, what's emerging for you from today's program, because we're all about value, insights, and takeaways. some thoughts about what you'll do next, really important. And of course, we want to give an affirmation and recognition to Sherry James. So I'd love to also take a moment and tell you we have new esteemed faculty members coming into our council. We're so excited. Oh my gosh. Nancy Geary, Kathy Dirksen, Linda Conyard, Michelle McGlade, who's going to be presenting in 2 weeks. LaTanya Pouncey, oh my goodness, brilliant, brilliant woman who is an expert in recruiting. So she's going to help us bring some ideas into how we can be better people person, so to speak, in regard to recruiting and recruiting people in our life to be supporters of us as affiliates and partners. And of course, Trisha Bright, she's an amazing coach consultant who really helps people be more bright, be more powerful in the world. Really excited. And our newest esteemed faculty member, Gloria St. Martin Lowry. Oh my goodness, Gloria, powerhouse. I mean, at period end of statement, powerful woman. She has an essence that's really amazing. She has an expertise of working with people in corporate. And she's a transformational coach consultant. Can't wait to hear more from Gloria as well. And of course, in 2 weeks, 7/21, be sure to register to hear more from Michelle McGlade about how to powerfully choose what's next for you. You know, as thought leaders, coaches, consultants, trusted advisors, we have about 1,001 opportunities just today. How do we powerfully choose what's next? How do we make the right decisions in a sea of opportunities? You know, it's expounding on our theme today about how to become mentally, independently wealthy. So really going to be great. And of course, every Saturday morning, we have a Women's Success Circle. Did you know that we're meeting at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Pacific? Ladies, no makeup, no hair, no lipstick unless you want to wear it. This is going to be no video. We don't do any PowerPoint slides. We have a theme for the call. And often we have music. Often we have a quote. Often we have a topic. And we, in 27 minutes, get in and get out. And the feedback has been phenomenal. So again, there's no registration needed. Just pop on. It's a pop on call. And it is powerful, a powerful way to start your weekend. Okay. So again, it's a thrilling call. I've just started to do it, and the response has been very, very, very fun. So come join us every Saturday morning. And why are we doing all this? Well, hello, the world needs us to show our light, our prosperity light, our helping light, our wisdom light. Okay. So get that list of deposits and debits going from Sherry's program here, and come join us in the C-Suite Network, Women's Coaching and Consulting. We want you to join us. And next steps, schedule a call with me. Let's have a conversation. Let's get you involved as esteemed faculty. We're also going to be starting very soon a founding member drive, founding member focus. Now, if you're esteemed faculty, you know you're already a founding member, but we're going to be going out and sharing with the world what we're doing here. Okay, a lot of projects this year. It's going to be very exciting, including a success summit coming up. Oh my goodness, success summit, and our faculty members get to be featured on that. So more details coming. So curious, what's your big takeaway from our time together? Love to stop sharing. And what's your biggest takeaway from our time together? Just feel free to jump right in. Yes, and we're excited about Freedom Fest coming up next week. Woohoo! Yes. Yeah.
I love the fact that there is an unlimited amount of deposits for good, that that you immediately went to what's my budget, and instead she goes, there is no budget. You get to just make it as big as you want. That to me is a fabulous way to look at it and help others to reframe how they look at the good things that come their way.
Excellent. And Susan, I'm curious, tell us about the leader that you see in Sherry James.
Oh my gosh.
Beautiful, trusted advisor leader. Yeah.
Yeah, she's such a powerhouse. And I love the fact that when she starts to open up and speak, it just lights up the room. You know, it is just excitement and pure joy that comes out, that it is a pleasure to be around. And it is always that she is engaging with others to find the good. So love that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan K. Younger. And you know, when we see things in others, it's just a mirror to ourselves, right? We get to see it in ourselves. Yeah, thank you. Great, good. Kisses to you. Yeah. Carol, love to get your voice in here. Takeaways,
Sure.
inspiration.
I really, really liked it, that we now have a way to conceptualize that we are in control of our deposits and our withdrawals. I mean, I just loved that analogy, and I can see how powerful that could be in journaling and in planning our day even. You know, I wrote that various things were worth 100 points to me. There were some things that debited me by 500. So it's like, okay, we need to really plan around that, because sometimes the cleaners are not coming and it's my job then. Oh, ick.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you so much. And again, energy, empathy, heart-centered, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. So ditto, ditto, ditto. Sherry, thank you for bringing your wisdom to our council meeting today, our gathering, our interactive gathering. Thank you for bringing your heart. You have so much thought leadership that the world is waiting for you, and they're waiting specifically for you, Sherry James. Thank you for sharing this time with us, and
Thank you.
loved every second of it.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Have a fabulous rest of the afternoon, and I'll see some of you next week.
That's right. Good. Thank you. Have a great week. Big kisses. Take care for now. Bye-bye.